Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1706 of our daily content grind. I thought I would take you through another underused Transformer character, though this really isn't a character, it is a group of characters and or a concept that technically is not a character. It depends on the fiction you're going with at the time, and don't worry, we will be covering both of them. We're going to be talking Vehicons today, specifically, like I said, all Vehicons. So, first off, obviously we have the originals, the ones from Beast Machines. The ones that have somehow gone so long without any Generations toys. It's been since Thrilling 30 since we actually got any of the Vehicons as toys, and that one was way too small. So it's embarrassing at this point. I know Beast Machines was marketing poison when it first came out, but nostalgia has built up, and I don't think anyone really begrudged the cast of Vehicons. I think that was like the shining point of that series. Like, we liked the Vehicons. Give us toys of the Vehicons. In reality, I think it's because they have no credible repaints to make of them, which makes this a little bit more daunting to reuse. I think that's really the reason. But no, the original cast of Vehicons was quirky, a little bit different in variety. You know, you've got Jetstorm alone, this boisterous jet with so much confidence and so many pop culture references. This was a fun cast, and then more interesting when you add Strika and Obsidian, who were not captured Maximals and one Predacon, that were trapped inside these bodies, but actual, willing servants of Megatron, who are themselves. You know, they are not buried under a program like everybody else. Gives you this fun, different dynamic and makes them more dangerous in the process. The Beast Machines Vehicons were the highlight. They're the really cool part of Beast Machines. They're the one we've always been after new toys of. But that is not the most prevalent Vehicon anymore, because Transformers Prime has its own take on the Vehicons, and they had 3 seasons worth of these Vehicons for us to get more familiar with their variety. These Vehicons are drones. They are basically just there to be just something for the Autobots to shoot at and basically give the Decepticon a really huge numbers advantage. Now, we've seen this many times in many recent fictions. Like, a lot of shows just generally really like, shows and movies, I should say, genuinely like just having a bunch of ground soldiers around for the Autobots to just tear through. You know, like we had this in Age of Extinction, where there's just a bunch of Vehicons running around. We had this in Rise of the Beast, where it's a bunch of Scorponox, or the Netflix series, where it's also a bunch of Scorponox. Stop disrespecting Scorponok. Even in Transformers 1, the idea of the Prime Vehicon lives on in the trackers, in their various configurations and identities, but it still basically serves the exact same purpose. It's just a generic ground soldier, or I guess air soldier, depending on which version of the Vehicons you're looking at. So, we need to address, if we're going to figure out how to use the Vehicons in a modern setting, we need to figure out some way of actually adding to their viability, and we need to do something fresh and unique with them, right? So, we have a few options here. The first issue is we need to figure out how to make them more threatening. So, in this instance, we're going to use the Prime Vehicons to start with. So, the Prime Vehicons, as a mass army of just mindless drones. This is not doing Transformers Prime, where some of them had like weird, quirky personalities. Steve is not here. These are more like drone soldiers, like from an ant colony. They are programmed with one task in mind, and their sole goal is to focus on that task. They have no actual spark, no actual programming. They're basically just really advanced robots equipped with guns and transformations. And that does kind of mean that, you know, they're kind of there to be gutted. I will admit, anytime you make these mass soldiers, their existence is to be gutted. You know, like against someone like Bulkhead, a dozen Vehicons are going to go down no problem, right? That's just how it goes. So we need to make them more threatening. We need to give them a bigger advantage. Well, let's start mixing in elements from the Beast Machines Vehicons, shall we? So those drones were also marginal threats. As the series went on and the Maximals got more control over their transformation and powers, the Vehicons became more and more trivial. The drones only posed a threat because of numbers, but later on, they had another huge advantage that made them a lot scarier, and that was the Spark Extractor. This alone changes the game. So now you don't even want to get close to a Vehicon, right? If they are just equipped with Spark Extractors. In Transformers Prime, there was only one. It was a relic. It wasn't something that you could mass produce for every single Vehicon on the field. So we don't need to worry about that in that fiction. They never really got the chance to use it the way we are going to use it here. I am literally equipping every generic Vehicon, whether it flies or drives, with a Spark Extractor built in. So now it becomes a threat no matter what you're going up against. But that said, that's not the twist that made me think of this. That's easy, right? Oh, let's just give these Vehicons the weapons of the other Vehicons. That's easy. That's really easy. So we're going to go in a different direction now. This is not the twist that I came up with. The twist I came up with, and what made me really love this idea, is that my iteration of the Prime Vehicons are protoforms. Rolling base program protoforms equipped with the Spark Extractors. This means the threat is not just, oh, if they get close, they're going to pull your spark out. They're going to pull your spark out and then turn into a full-blown transformer themselves. They'll be able to do what Beast Machine's Megatron was doing to, like, Silverbolt, Rhinox, and Waspinator, all on their own. Every individual Vehicon immediately becomes a threat. A group of Vehicons becomes an enormous threat. You know, you don't just get surrounded by these guys anymore and dogpiled until a real Decepticon comes up and shoots you in the head. That's not the strategy anymore. You get ambushed by a group of these things, you're going to become one of them. And more specifically, my version of these Vehicons are protoforms to become the Beast Machines iterations of the Vehicons, which means you get an entire army, potentially. But it also allows you to reintroduce the main, like, unique Vehicons as more, without, they still have these ground troops and air troops, but they themselves stand out far more unique than they did in Beast Machines, and it allows you to merge the two concepts together. So the goal of the new Vehicons is to capture sparks, use those to fuel their like transformation cycle, and complete their protoform status into being fully realized transformers. Similar to the Beast Machines Vehicons, you're going to have a base program that kicks in and a persona that they become, while the spark becomes basically just the fuel for a brand new Vehicon general, which in this case, according to this storyline, is part of Megatron's Decepticon army. And that does fuel other aspects too, like the hostage aspect. That was always the scary thing, like Thrust wasn't just Thrust, it was Waspinator. And if you had any care for Waspinator's life at all, you could not actually just gun him down. When Black Arachnia thought it was Silverbolt's spark in there, look at everything she had to do to try to preserve that. Well, now you're very well aware right from the beginning, if one of these Vehicons is on the battlefield, they used to be a friend of yours, and your friend's life is literally in the middle of them. So I can't turn my blaster on heavy. I cannot swing my sword at full strength. I have to try to subdue them without destroying them. This gets very complicated for your good guys, and it makes the Vehicons such a more dominant and frightening force. And I love the possibilities it opens up. By combining the two types of Vehicons into this one new iteration, you have opened up story aspects and possibilities. You have also opened up toy line possibilities. And I love that we've done both with this idea. So, we're going to start on the toy-based side of things, because this actually solves some problems that toy lines tend to run into when they have a limited cast to work with, like Beast Wars or Prime. So let's say this is part of like a traditional Transformers 3-year cycle. 3 years worth of toys, 3 seasons of a show. You go through an entire season and, RC is in your main cast, right? Okay, so we want to kind of give her a break from the toy shelves for a bit, but instead of killing her off like we would do in the 86 movie, instead, a Vehicon snags her, and through season 2, she's thrust. Or at the very least, her spark is powering Thrust as a character. So you go through season 2 with the motorcycle bot holding RC as a hostage while also being an active threat on the battlefield. But that does give you possibilities when it comes to year 3 and wanting to reintroduce RC. So if you want to give her a completely fresh toy, you make her a motorcycle. So you go from the car in season 1 to the motorcycle in season 3, and you have an aspect of her Vehicon persona actually leak through into her new toy. Like it has some kind of lasting effect on her. Maybe personality-wise, she's the same, but maybe she found out the motorcycle works better for her. Maybe she actually liked, being a little bit smaller, a little bit more like freewheeling. It might just be like it's a personality shift based on her experience as Thrust. So it's not so much of a detriment to her the way it was like Silverbolt. There's actually something she gained from it, and you take, and it's a way of shifting up and giving you like a fresh take on the character. And then there's other ways we can take this. Let's say season 1 Smokescreen had a really, really nice toy, right? And we'd really like to reuse it, but I don't know so much if we want to like retool him or not. That was a really good toy. Maybe you just repaint it for year 3. Okay, what if we take his first year toy and we'll, let's say during the show, he was captured by Jetstorm. Let's just say he was like captured by Jetstorm, and then in season 3, he gets free, regains his original body, but now his color scheme matches his Vehicon persona. So now it's more of a tonal shift in character, like almost this is where you would imply a little bit of the Silverbolt aspect of, okay, that woke up some things in me I'm not comfortable with, but I'm dealing with it. We're going to therapy. I'm seeing Rung on Wednesday. That kind of thing. So you have this like visual representation of his time with Thrust or time with Jetstorm in this case, having a permanent effect on him. So you have ways of adapting characters so that when they come back in season 3, they're not just the same old guy they were before. Again, I love the story possibilities here. And you see what we're doing. We're giving you a way of cycling characters in and out so that the limited cast in the show doesn't get stale. Like if you really, really loved Smokescreen in season 1, you're going to fear for him in season 2 when he's on the battlefield against his Autobot friends, against his will. And we'll get into a little bit of that more when we get into the character aspect of this. But toy-wise, you could still do it. Like, what if we went like full Thrustinator and just like made the retools in season 3 really twisted? Like, we couldn't reformat him completely or regain their original body. So now they're just this weird amalgamation between the two. Maybe not necessarily like as monstrous as a Thrustinator, but kind of a similar take, completely fresh toy with aspects of both. And then, yes, there's also the idea of we could do something similar with the toys where, let's say for instance, this is again ways of getting new toys out there and ways and things that Hasbro would really love to do. Let's say you got Warpath and you really, really like Warpath as a character, right? Warpath in this series is really, really cool. But at the end of season 1, he gets a spark extracted, and then season 2 comes around, and now it's Strika. So now, instead of waiting until season 3 to retool, we're doing new versions of the old Vehicons as retools of the pre-existing characters. So now the new Strika kind of looks like the original Warpath. And the toy is a retooling of the Year 1 Warpath toy to kind of represent that. Now, that does take away the aspect of getting brand new toys of the original Vehicons. I think Generations will eventually get around to that at some point anyway. This is for a completely new series, completely new style and show. So I don't see an issue with doing it there. So this also has a really fun aspect of you could actually visually show like who is captured by what Vehicon. So there's no ambiguity or confusion to it, especially amongst kids. Like, okay, I can see these characters and I can obviously see who they were originally, and that informs me of who's on the battlefield. So even without like being able to having to keep track of like, a G1 Warpath and a Beast Machine Strika body, well, now they're both in similar bodies. So now the kid has to worry about his favorite character Warpath every time Strika takes the battlefield, and they immediately know that it's Warpath in there based on the toy, based on the reused body, and that again lets us reuse it in year 2. So like I'm like you're doing like the transmetal thing of like here's RC. Here is a retool of the first year RC toy as Thrust. And it doesn't even work it doesn't work with that example. It doesn't work with that example. Wait a minute. Hang on. Maybe, okay, those ideas don't mix as well as I thought. It's probably one or the other. Either you get brand new Vehicon toys in season 2, or you get them this way, as reused bodies from season 1. And I think both have their merits. I like visually showing who is captured by who. I like that. But story-wise, we also have a lot of really cool possibilities here. What if the spark they extract changes what powers they gain? So let's say, for instance, let's say Jetstorm takes up, Wind Charger Spark and gains magnetic abilities. Well, you could potentially get Wind Charger's spark out of Jetstorm's body, and that same Vehicon ends up capturing somebody else's spark. So you get Jetstorm back, but now they have a different Autobot ability. If it's like a Trailbreaker, now they have a force field to them. So you make your Vehicons more dangerous that way, because they can also tap into the abilities, or maybe even the memories and experience of the Autobot trapped inside them. If they capture someone like an Elita 1, for instance, having Vehicons with a time stop ability is terrifying, especially because Megatron don't care. Not about the Vehicon, not about the spark inside the Vehicon, meaning he'll just burn up that power, as many times as it takes. Who cares if Elita 1 spark gets extinguished after 2 or 3 uses? We've stopped time and basically just used all that extra time to just put 100 shots into Optimus Prime's head. War's over. So if Elita is forced to take the battlefield, like you put that out as a storyline, there's a crumb of like, what if the Vehicons get her ability? Now, having her take the battlefield is a terrifying prospect, and it lets you put a lot more drama into whatever story that stars her in that episode. Again, story possibilities that I really, really love. What if there's a Protoform X? What if these Vehicons have the equivalent of a Protoform X that's just far more powerful, like a 0.1%er among the Vehicons? Shockwave was just tooling around in the lab one day, just figuring out how far he could take this, and ended up coming up with, the Vehicon that left its parents on Krypton. This is just the most powerful thing in the Vehicon army. Look at who could you possibly get it to extract? Maybe there's a whole like 3-parter where it extracts Optimus Prime, and you actually have to deal with an in-canon Nemesis Prime. That's a possibility with this story, and I love that possibility. It also would give you room for like a Rodimus Prime, for instance, to step up and coexist in the same series. You know, it's such a good threat idea, right? What if this is the schemy Shockwave? What if this wasn't trying to create like the ultimate Autobot trap? What if this was trying to create a way of overthrowing Megatron? So he presents this Protoform X, this incredibly powerful protoform, to Megatron. And Megatron has the plan of like, well, if we use this on Optimus Prime, if we use this on Elita 1, etc., etc. But Shockwave has it immediately suck out Megatron's spark. Megatron's body goes limp. Spark powers up the Vehicon into a brand new form. Matches Shockwave's purple to a T. It's Shockwave's ideal enforcer, exactly how he envisioned. Except Megatron's will is more powerful than the programming. And all you've done is given us Galvatron as the threat for the final season. So Shockwave gets the Starscream beatdown treatment. Galvatron now stands amongst the Decepticons, and you've only created a bigger threat now. You see what I mean? Do you see what I mean? Like, whether it's on the toy aisle or it's in the cartoon, the idea of mixing the two Vehicon concepts offers up so much. It's such a good idea. I'm super happy with this. I know a lot of people have like done requests at some point, or like asked me to like do another, like, what would you do for a brand new Transformer series? Honestly, I would absolutely include this Vehicon idea. Not only do I think it has a great way of introducing cast of characters, as a way of rotating the cast in a really clever way, it also just makes so much sense even from a toy line perspective. I love this concept. I absolutely love this concept. I would love to see where it fits into like a full story. But that's what I got for you today. That's how I would use the Vehicons in a brand new fiction. Let me know in the comment section below if you enjoy the idea. If you have any tweaks to it, always welcome to that. But thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.